The temperate rainforest is a very much more rare ecosystem than the tropical rainforest, and there's more living matter per unit area than in a tropical rainforest, and so there's a lot of life, and every square inch is covered with something in this temperate rainforest.
The colour, the intense greenness, and the whole environment of the water and the trees, and just to see the whole cycle of nature, just really very beautiful.
Well, the forest is connected to the ocean via the salmon. They start in the fresh water, and their whole body changes to adapt to the salt water. It's a very big change for these fish. So they go out and they spend some time in the open ocean, wander around getting very big, and then they'll bring those ocean nutrients back to the freshwater ecosystem and leave them here. So the salmon will die after they spawn, nourish the next generation of fish, and feed the bears and the eagles and the ravens and the gulls and everything else in the forest, including the trees. Trees along salmon streams get bigger, and we find that the nitrogen, a good part of the nitrogen in the trees along salmon streams, comes from the ocean via the salmon. It's really incredible how everything is interconnected and interdependent. And there's so many of those interconnections we're probably not even aware of.
Well, we've arrived at our first landing of the expedition. We are on Chichikov Island, the second largest island in the Alexander Archipelago. And this afternoon we're going to have our first encounters with the temperate rainforest.
Yeah, that's correct.
The temperate rainforest stretches from northern California all the way to Kodiak Island, so within the confines of Alaska, forms a 1,000-mile-long arc.
What's the name of that one?
Our hike was amazing. We took the medium hike and got a tremendous lesson on the islands here.
Whose college mascot is this, the banana slug?
That's Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz.
Yeah, go banana slugs, UC Santa Cruz. It used to be the California sea lion, but the student body, by popular demand, had it changed to the banana slug. Yeah, so these guys are pretty important for the forest environment. They eat the organic material on the ground, poop it out, and make it a little bit more accessible.
Go slugs!
Yeah. Right? Some people like to lick them. Anyone? You are in North America's largest temperate rainforest.
Learned a lot about Alaska, about Southeast Alaska specifically, and they raised foxes at one point on this island until the Depression, when it no longer became economically viable. And now it's the largest national park in the entire United States, 17 million square miles.
All right. There's more of that chicken wire.
Yeah.
Get. So here in the temperate rainforest of Alaska, tree identification is pretty straightforward, as we have two predominant species, the western hemlock and the Sitka spruce. So Sitka spruce, the Alaska state tree. Sitka comes from a Tlingit word, which means by the sea. So Sitka, by the sea, where you were yesterday, these trees never grow on the other side of the coastal mountains. It's just not wet enough.
Got a branch here, guys.
Really, our diversity is on the ground, not in the canopy. So I like to think of it as an upside-down rainforest. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do deer slope?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
You see, the bog has to be surrounded by a normal forest made of spruce and hemlock up there or there. And the hemlock, as much as spruce, but hemlock more than any other tree, when it rains, the water runs down along the central trunk. And as it reaches the bottom, it's already very acid because it's got so much tannic acid, the bark of the hemlock, for protection, of course, for its own protection. And so this water starts collecting in small ponds. Look at the color of the water, it's brown, it's tannic acid. Some plants can only live there, like for example the buckbean, okay, with the beautiful white flowers. Sundews, insect eaters. The plant catches insects. Let me pull one out and I'll put it back in because it's just moss. That's where they have their roots. It's got little leaves like petals. And the petals are covered with long hairs, red hairs, and at the tip of every red hair there's a tiny globule of sticky material, mucopolysaccharides. And it catches insects and digests them. It doesn't close like the Venus flytrap or anything. It just digests them. They break down the amino acids and they can get all the nitrogen they need for their growth.
Walking through the temperate rainforest of Southeast Alaska, we're surrounded by so many different shades of green that your eyes are hurting.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It seems like there's almost just like a huge carpet, all of moss and stuff. Some parts are kind of light and other parts are really rich green. And like every once in a while there's just something really bright that just pops out of nowhere and stuff. It's really cool.
Well, it's really bright green, it's wet green, fresh green. Looks very edible.
I think I might call this Alaska's neon green. Maybe an insane green would be a better name. Thus, the incredible vibrancy of this ecosystem can almost just be represented by this single color: nuclear, neon, insane green.
So we're at Fox Creek this morning in the Tongass National Forest. Tongass National Forest is massive. It's our nation's largest forest, 16.9 million acres of forested land. And on top of that, there are thousands upon thousands of miles of coastal territory that go with that as well, because much of the forest, like you see here today, comes right down to the waterline.
It's like the forest primeval. It's untouched, it's beautiful, and full of life, an abundance of life. All sorts of birds and plants and furry animals. You walk in, sometimes there aren't any trails, and you're climbing over logs and big trees, and it feels like no one has ever been there before, like no other people have been there before.
So the Pacific Northwest harbors our planet's largest tract of temperate rainforest. It stretches from Oregon all the way up here to Southeast Alaska, and we've had the luxury and the privilege of exploring it today.